Perfect. Yeah, and we're live with another episode of the SEO Leadership Podcast. Today, really excited to bring you Harrison Lemon. He is the Technical SEO Account Manager at EssenceMediacom. How are we today, Harrison?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. Yeah, can't complain with the sunny weather we're having in Manchester. Really, you doing all right, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm wearing a jumper today, and I don't know why. I'm sweating a bit out here, but yeah, let's get sort of just straight into it. So, for those of you that don't know you, Harrison, how did you sort of end up where you are at the minute in SEO?
Yeah, so I guess I didn't really take the traditional, I suppose, uni route of getting into marketing and things like that. Ended up doing an apprenticeship when I was like 17. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Wanted to do something more creative, actually. Don't know how I landed in SEO really on that one. But I sort of was scoping out what I could do, and I sort of looked at marketing and was like, right, well, there's a little bit of a creative side to marketing. Let's jump into that. And then I guess my first role sort of was kind of in the deep end of SEO because I started at like a web design agency, which obviously works hand in hand with SEO. So a lot of my first few years in the industry, in just marketing in general, were to do with SEO,
Mhm.
and then yeah, I ended up just really enjoying it and working for another company after that. That yeah, just asked if SEO was something I wanted to do full time, and I was like, yeah, definitely. So actually, I've done a bit of PPC, a bit of social, bit of everything, and just landed in SEO because I preferred this as like the channel. Um, but yeah, I guess yeah, started when I was 17. I'm now 24, 25 this year. So probably have like 4, 5 years in just pure SEO, um, for a couple of different agencies and stuff. But yeah, um, bit of a whistle stop tour, I guess.
And do you think having that background or maybe that exposure when you were younger to different aspects and not just SEO has sort of helped you maybe with more holistic SEO strategies now going forward? Or
Yeah, definitely. Just knowing about, I think just knowing about a few of the other intricacies in the other channels like social, like PPC. Having the chance to create like a PPC campaign from scratch, doing a bit of paid social as well. It's all really really helpful. Because when you're in those meetings with other teams and other channels, and you're hearing those conversations that they're having with clients, you're not sort of completely in the dark, and it allows you to work a bit closer together. I feel like you can ask those questions because you're not. It's not like a different language, and I think yeah, as we move more and more and more towards seeing, you know, social appearing in the SERPs and stuff like that, I think it's yeah, it's definitely useful to have that experience. Yeah, for sure.
brilliant. And for SEOs who are maybe just starting out, whether that's sort of internship or like more like sort of graduate roles as well, is there a particular sort of skill that you would recommend that they focus on that you can see becoming really useful in the next sort of 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, I think um, maybe not one that's probably expected, but I'd say actually just passion, like having a passion for the job. And I don't think that's just SEO. I think that's any job you go into. Like I think that's carried me really far because I just really enjoy it. I really enjoy my day to day. I really enjoy like doing the work. I think you're going to get so much more out of yourself if you have a genuine passion for something. And I know it's super cliched, isn't it? Like realistically, how much of a passion can you have for something that you're getting paid to do it? You have to do it right to live. But yeah, try and enjoy something. I think because you're gonna want to put more hours in. You're gonna want to naturally like learn about stuff in your free time. No one wants to take the work home, right? But like it definitely makes it easier if it's something you somewhat enjoy. And then you can find out things in your free time. You can take them into work. I think that's what really helped me like learn quite quickly and develop as an SEO. It's just like yeah, I was interested, and I would see posts from people on LinkedIn, and I think that's interesting. I'm going to try that. I've got a bit of time with this client. Yeah, I'll give it a go. I'll try it and see if it works. Little tips and tricks, little shortcuts formulas in Excel, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say probably passion. And then yeah, I think actually just as an SEO in general, being curious, being genuinely like inquisitive of like new stuff, and you know, seeing something on a site that's or like rankings have dropped, or like there's an area of a site that just maybe I think yeah, being curious, just like look at be having the will to look into stuff, and yeah, I think that pairs quite nicely with passion.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think I completely agree. Whenever we jump on call, we obviously see tens of thousands of CVs over the course of my time at SEO for Hire. And yeah, I think the only time you can really tell a candidate apart is when they jump on that call and you go through the vetting process with them. And somebody who is passionate, even if their CV maybe isn't as strong, you're almost more confident that they're going to land the role because, yeah, I think people want people that can add value, not just in terms of their ability, but going forward. I think it's a lot easier to train somebody and progress somebody if they are passionate about it. Um, when it comes to that passion, is there a particular way that you sort of showcase that through whether like a CV or through any sort of, I know you quite popular on like sort of the side projects and stuff like that as well.
I think when you are naturally passionate about something, I feel like it just the crack like it just shows, like the cracks begin to show. Like you can't really hide it if you genuinely are interested in something. I feel like I'm a bit of an oddball because I genuinely really do love my job. I do love SEO, and not everyone is going to enjoy SEO as much as other people do, right? Um, but yeah, I think if you are sort of new to the industry, when it comes to like your CV, I think nothing is off limits. Like I first got my apprenticeship by, you know, this is outside of SEO, I guess, but I first got my apprenticeship by, I had my YouTube channel on my CV, right?
Oh, right.
Um, I had like random logos and stuff I'd created in Photoshop. This was just to get me into a pure marketing like apprenticeship position. Um, I don't think anything's off limits. I think if that's the sort of stuff that people can see that you're passionate about something is the extra stuff. Like no one cares about your day to day. Like that stuff that you pay to do, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, to an extent, they do care about your day to day, but it's the extra stuff that thing that counts. Like, have you created a site? Have you created a social media account? Do you post about stuff? Do you talk about SEO? Do you know people in the industry? Do people know you? Do you go to events? Things like that. I think that's what all really matters.
Brilliant, brilliant. And obviously, with somebody who's maybe starting up and they are that passionate, they do have that drive, they want to maybe start up like a sort of freelance project, whether it's working with clients or working on a website of their own. Is there any advice for somebody to how to get started, whether it's how to pick the sort of the niche that they're after or how to maybe gain traction with clients and how to get clients through the door when they're only sort of started?
Yeah, I'd just say honestly, just get started. Like, there's no perfect time, and like the excuse you hear all the time is like, I don't have the time, but you just got to make the time. Like, you have to make it. It doesn't have to be like you don't have to put 20 hours in a week, right? It could be half an hour a week, but it's that consistent time over time. Just get started. YouTube's great for it. The great thing about the digital space is like everything is online.
Yeah.
Everything is available. Like you don't have to pay for £1,000 course. I guarantee most of the stuff that are in these like paid for courses you can probably find online somewhere. Um, yeah, YouTube's a great source of information. Don't get me wrong, there are some brilliant courses out there. I've bought some good courses. But yeah, I don't think you need them when you're starting out. Yeah, just honestly get started. That first website you make is going to be terrible. That first podcast you do is going to be terrible. But yeah, I think just getting started is more important. And then yeah, staying consistent with it, just putting the hours in, doing the reps. I think that's
Brilliant.
the most important thing.
Excellent. And from your background, you obviously started as more sort of generalist and now slightly more sort of technical focused, if that's fair to say. Is there any advice for somebody that is looking at maybe going into SEO or maybe they've been in there for like a year or 2 years? Would you advise them to stay a generalist before making that switch, or would you advise them to maybe not necessarily pigeonhole themselves but go down that specialist route early, or would you rather wait then until you get a couple more years under the belt?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess I would always say like having that generalist background is helpful. Again, similar to why it's helpful having like a bit of background in other marketing channels or a little bit of exposure at least. Um, I think if you can create a generalist strategy for a client that's not just tech or content, or it's just a whole strategy, I think that's only going to serve you well. Um, and understanding that actually my role, most of the time, the technical issues that we spot aren't actually the most important things that a client can
Yeah,
implement, right? We know that there's a lot more other strategic recommendations that we can make that might have a bigger impact on like rankings and on revenue and the things that matter. But I wouldn't know that if I didn't have like a generalist background. I might think that my issues are more important. I might think that tech is the be all and end all, when really that's just not the case. Um, I think, yeah, it really depends on the person. I think in terms of if you want to specialize or not, if you really, really find that your skills are valuable in a certain area, and I guess it also kind of depends on your environment as well, the people around you. If there's people that you can lean on that you think you can learn from, um, I moved into this position. I think a big reason for that was because there's some great people in our team that I can lean on and learn from. If there wasn't that in another place and I had to kind of do things by myself, I don't know if I would necessarily want to jump as much if there wasn't as much opportunity for learning. Um, so yeah, I guess it depends on the environment, depends on the person. It depends, right? It's such a
yeah,
cliched answer, right?
yeah.
Um, yeah,
No, I love it. I love it. And as you mentioned, there, technical SEOs they often need to sort of translate sort of complex scenarios, especially if you're working with clients or even in-house to different stakeholders who maybe aren't as sort of technically adept. How have you sort of developed that soft skill over time? And is there any sort of advice you would give to maybe people who have that sort of strong technical knowledge but don't have that sort of communication ability yet?
yeah. I think again, it's just getting the repetitions in. Um, I think when it comes to like big client calls and like QBRs and meetings and things like that, I think it can be a really, really easy one to shy away from. They can be quite scary. You're meeting big stakeholders, people that, maybe you've only heard of from other members of the team, from management and things like that. They're asking for something. Oh, God. But I think, yeah, just getting the repetitions in. You might only have the chance for two or three of those big, big, big meetings like every
Mhm.
single year, right? And if you shy away from them, you might not get those chances. Um, even if it's like you're just there listening in, I think you learn quite quickly what clients respond well to.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's even just great for building a relationship. Like if someone can see your face, if you can interact with them, if you can say hello, handshake, things like that. I think that's only going to serve you well moving forwards if you leave a good impression in person. Um, yeah, and actually building like a good relationship with a client as well. Realistically, what matters, what most clients care about is revenue, right? Is like they're paying us for a job. If we can make them more money, that's what they care about. But yeah, it's the other stuff as well, like actually building a physical relationship with that client. Um, you know, treating it like person to person rather than business to business.
Mm. And when you're sort of communicating, do you communicate in terms of revenue as well, rather than diving into sort of heavy, sort of technical, don't want to say jargon, but that sort of type of language? When you're speaking to clients, do you show it in terms of impact of their bottom line? I know it obviously depends quite a lot between what sort of niche they're in and stuff like that as well, but is that something that you're always keeping in the back of your head?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with SEO, with tech SEO, yeah, you can definitely still forecast. Some things are definitely a little bit more wishy-washy than others.
Yeah.
Like certain, yes, certain issues. Obviously, it's hard to tie in revenue to certain uh, technical fixes. You can estimate and you can forecast. But yeah, I guess prioritization as well based on time can be quite helpful, and actually just speaking with other teams. If if you've got separate, let's say you've got a separate tech team and a separate strategy team or whatever, separate content team, actually understanding what they're doing and actually realistically being super critical. Actually, which is the most important thing here? Is it the technical stuff?
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's not, right? Um, so actually having a conversation with other people in the team about which to push. Um, but yeah, I guess the short answer is yeah, you can still tie revenue into tech fixes, yeah, and I definitely would do if you can do it.
Excellent. And obviously, technical SEO sort of web devs work sort of hand in hand or try to anyway. How do you sort of go about making sure that the sort of recommendations you're putting forward to clients and stuff are actually getting actioned or are getting actioned on time? Because I've spoke to quite a few tech SEOs recently that they create these sort of list of recommendations, but it can be sort of months before they actually get actioned by the client, and the client then isn't getting the results, and then they're not happy with the SEO, but it's not even getting implemented. Is there any way you can sort of go about that or sort of help push the
Yeah,
along?
that is a great one. Like the short answer is with great difficulty. I think every client is different, and every like team is different. Um, yeah, I guess I would say with my approach to speaking with, let's say, new development teams or new developers is sounds weird, but like a test and learn approach, right? Sometimes people just don't respond well to like, let's say you've got it in like a different way, like you've got it in Google Sheets, but they're used to Asana or they're used to like some other different project management tool. If you can get access to that and you can feed directly into their systems, they might like that. If maybe they don't want to be overburdened, like maybe they've got lots on their end and actually pushing like a list of 15, 20 tasks through, they're just not even going to look at it because it's too much.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a case that you decide, okay, we'll stagger them. We'll pick one or two really, really important ones. We don't want to overburden them. Maybe they're more likely to push them through. Maybe developers respond well to calls, like walking them through something rather than sending screenshots and emails. I think it is just like test and learn. If they haven't implemented something off the back of a recommendation or a change, or maybe it's the way you've said it, maybe it's the way you've pushed it,
hmm,
maybe you've not spoken their language yet. You can only change what you can do, right? And we're really easy and quick to blame developers, right, in these situations. But they for a lot of developers and development teams, they're working with a set amount of time, and we're just adding additional like tasks and time onto that. So yeah, I guess it's speaking their language and making it as easy as possible for them to fit it in a lot of the time. But yeah, I guess test and learn is what I would say, and trial things. I think every account and every team is going to be different.
yeah, couldn't agree more. And obviously, speaking in terms of SEO, can't sort of not talk about AI. Um, just as like a sort of a brief one to get us into it, how have you maybe like sort of adopted your process, or how is your sort of a day in the life of your SEO changed over the last sort of 12 to 18 months with the sort of heavy introduction of AI and all these sort of new AI tools that can cut workflows down and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, so I guess how I use AI, I typically try and use it for like for stuff where I feel like there's a bit more of a definitive answer, where it's less of like a wishy-washy, like let's say creative thing, right? Where something is black or white, where something is like binary, right? Where it's one or zero. I feel like that's typically where I get the most value out of like AI. Um, so I'll use it for a lot of stuff like code, drafting up schema. Where there's a definitive like this is what this code means. There's sort of only a few different ways you can write it, sort of thing. And I'll use it for where a process needs to be done a lot of times where I'm being lazy and I'm like,
Yeah.
right, I don't want to do it this many times. I'll do it once and then see if GPT or something can replicate that. Yeah, so I guess one cool thing I've been doing recently is, and one thing that I use quite a lot actually, is I'll use ChatGPT for Excel and Google Sheets and things like that. That's super, super handy. Because yeah, you can basically. One thing I love about that is you can create one prompt and like basically, let's say you've done a crawl and you've pulled information from a website or scraped something from the SERPs or something like that. You can create a prompt that will um, that will work dynamically across the values you've pulled out from the crawl. So, for example, right, it might be that as an example, you might want to change the page title for 1,000 pages, and it's a really simple change. And this might be a bit of a bad example because there's other ways you can do this, but you might have crawled the URL, and you might also have another column where you've got like a keyword, like a primary keyword for each of the different URLs, and then you've also pulled out maybe page copy
Mhm.
from each of the different pages. Then in the top, you can have like a prompt that will say like, I'm looking to create a title tag for these pages. Here is a primary keyword in column B, and then use the copy from column C to draft a title tag. It must be below 65 characters. Try and include the brand, whatever, right? And you can drag it down the list of information that you've pulled out. So rather than writing that out, maybe
Yeah, every time.
loads of different times, you can just
Yeah,
drag it down the sheet, and
that's
it'll populate for all the different rows, which has been pretty good for me like recently. So that's really good for like schema as well. If you like, let's say, set up like an extraction to extract some code from a site. Um, yeah, it's just super handy because yeah, it saves a lot of time there. Um,
But yeah, I feel like, yeah, in terms of obviously you mentioned about passion stuff early on. Does that just come up out from your curiosity to try stuff like that and see if it works and play with about it? Like, how long did that sort of take to sort of click, and and can you give us like a example of how much sort of time that's actually saved over the last sort of week or 2 weeks of however long you've been using it for?
yeah, I mean, time saved is like I can't even put a number on that. It's crazy. And it's one of those as well where it's like you might shy away from it to begin with, because the amount of time it takes potentially to set something up or to learn like or to create a new process like that might take more than the allocated time that you have for a particular task. Right? That's how it works in SEO for a lot of different agencies. Is that you'll have maybe like separate tasks with allocated time. But actually, like the amount of time that you could save on other tasks in the future, it makes it so worth it if you
Yeah,
can get that process right, and also if you can develop that process and develop it in a way that other people can also use it. Maybe it's a templated sheet, maybe it's you write instructions on how to do it for the team, or you do a video or whatever. Then the amount of time you can save for other people as well, it's insane. So I'm the king of like spending like 5 hours on like a new way of doing something or a quick way of doing something on a task that I could have done manually in half an hour. But
yeah,
I know that I can use that same thing moving forwards. Um, and yeah, how I would go about it is, um, I guess normally if I come to a task and like there's thousands and thousands of rows, I'm just straight away thinking I cannot be bothered to do this manually. There must be a quicker way to do it, and I guarantee you there is. It's just something that you might not have thought about. And then I guess my first thought would be right. I'll go to LinkedIn. There's a few different creators that I will typically use for like stuff like that, or like sometimes if I see something, I'll save it and I'll come to a task and think, the save post from like 2 months ago. I'll just remember and I'll go right. I'll use this now. Um, yeah.
that's
So
brilliant.
yeah, just yeah. I guess laziness is the answer. Laziness.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I think was it like Steve Jobs maybe said something like always hire lazy people because they'll get the job done a lot quicker. Is there anybody in particular that you'd recommend people to go follow if they're really interested in that sort of AI SEO crossover?
Yeah, I think yeah. There's some. I mean, there's some great people in Manchester that well, I guess that I will speak to all the time about this sort of stuff. I think yeah, you can never go wrong really with anybody that sort of gives SEO that like no bullshit approach. I think
Mm.
anyone that preaches about the fundamentals, anyone that preaches about the basics, and doesn't need to talk about all the new fluff and all the new buzzwords coming out. Um, for me, those are the people that I will tend to look at. Um, yeah, because I think I think that things come and go all the time, and I think people that are driving results and have been driving results for years know that it's still very much the fundamentals and the basics and doing them well that will probably drive like 60, 70, 80% of the results for most websites still. It's new stuff that come and go that people will lap up for clicks and stuff and likes on LinkedIn that I don't know if I necessarily will follow their judgment on a lot of stuff. Um,
That
but yeah,
sort of brings me to my next question. Are you sort of prioritizing your campaigns for SEO or AI results, whether it's sort of get into AI overviews or like sort of AEO strategies as well, or is that something you're just sort of letting it sit for a while to see if it sort of matures maybe a bit more?
yeah, I think there's nothing that there's no sort of like set in stone processes that we do have at the moment. It's just more considerations. So I guess like there's a few interesting things we've picked up, but I'm still trying to kind of work out how I can go about using them. Like there's a tool we picked up recently that will do keyword research by using like GPT and Perplexity. So rather than like I know it will basically search for a keyword. It's good for like branded stuff, and it will basically tell you how long it takes for like a brand or a keyword to appear within like a specific prompt. But I'm still trying to work out how we can actually use that. Um, then I guess like obviously with the AIO stuff, it's sort of I guess being aware of it and actually coaching clients through those conversations as to why traffic might have dropped on like informational queries and like blog posts and things like that. And I think shifting that conversation to more of the value pages, like your product pages and your categories and things like that, is never a bad shout. The money makers. Um, yeah, I guess being aware of it for now and actually just helping clients to understand what's going on is I guess probably the most that I'm doing at the moment.
Brilliant, brilliant. And is it a case for you where sort of SEOs that don't adapt AI will be left behind the next sort of 2 years, 3 years? And would you recommend sort of junior people who are just getting into the industry to like put a big focus on actually understanding the benefits of AI and how they can sort of manipulate it to their sort of strengths?
So I would say like I don't think that people get left behind. I think that people that are utilizing AI will be able to do stuff quicker and move forwards quicker and probably automate the stuff that you don't want to do and all the boring manual laborious stuff. Um, People are going to get stuff done quicker. I'll be able to like implement stuff quicker. So they're not going to get left behind, but people are going to be able to do things better and quicker and easier. Um, I think for those starting out, actually, it's an interesting one. Definitely worth looking into stuff. But there's definitely a lot of value in actually doing a lot of stuff when you're first starting out manually and actually
Yeah.
getting to grips with how to do something properly. And then once you got to grips with a task or like once you got to grips with a task, then learning how to maybe do that quicker with AI. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing stuff manually when you first start out and just getting to grips with exactly what it is, right? I think you can learn
Yeah.
a lot from that and probably good to make mistakes. Um, yeah, and then learn and develop how to develop those processes you're on your own with AI after that once you've, sort of got to grips with it.
But yeah, I think definitely getting the sort of the key understanding of the fundamentals. Like it's hard to sort of use AI in your favor if you don't understand the basics first and
Yeah,
in that sort of
yeah.
way. But yeah, sort of coming up to the time here, just sort of one last question. In terms of the sort of the future of SEO, is there any sort of big predictions over the next sort of 12 months of how it's going to be shaped, whether that's to do with more entwined with more sort of social search and it becomes less out and out search engines or anything along those sort of lines?
Yeah, I think just more around personalization.
Okay.
Is probably going to be quite prevalent. Um, we've seen for a while now that if you search for something, like Google will just rewrite meta descriptions and
Mhm.
completely change a SERP for you based on your location and based on your preferences. I've seen as well, like, sites that I visit regularly jump up to position one just for me. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
like just when I'm searching for something or a particular keyword. Um, and the stuff that we're seeing with Google Shopping and all these new SERP features that Google are adding in. Um, I think I can't remember who said this on LinkedIn recently, but Google's turning a bit more into like a shopping, like a category page almost
Mhm.
for search results. Um, I mean, yeah, Google's goal has always been like trying to give people information as quickly and as possible, right, and give people exactly what they want as quickly as possible. So I think it's just going to shift more and more and more towards that. Um, and yeah, that personalization piece as well. I couldn't say exactly what that's going to look like, but um, yeah, that's what I would say.
Interesting. No, I love it. I think that's sort of the first time we've sort of touched on that from somebody, which is great. But yeah, that pretty much wraps us up. If anybody wants to go drop Harrison a follow or find out more, ask my questions. LinkedIn should be somewhere below, I think. And then yeah, we'll tag your Instagram as well, the business account, obviously. And yeah, hopefully get there. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I think there's a lot of value in that as well.
No, brilliant. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.